Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Carol Moulton coming to you once again with Tea Time with Carol. And I just want to welcome you in today. It's a beautiful day. I hope things are going well on your end. And if you don't know, if you're a first time listener, Tea Time actually stands for the T anyway, stands for Tactical Education and Advice. And so we hope that our messages and our presentations do a little bit of that for you. We're just trying to help you along the way with sharing things that we have found to be helpful or life saving or you know interesting at the very very least. So come on in. I'm pouring the tea. I've got a special tea for you today. Um, Actually, I found this in the cabinet this morning, and it sounded so interesting, and it is lovely. It is cranberry blood orange. And if you're not familiar with blood orange, it's like regular oranges, but and I don't know how they do this. I have no clue. But the orange, when you cut it on the inside, it's so red it almost looks like grapefruit, not the white grapefruit, the other grapefruit, pink grapefruit. But it's a very very dark orange and very sweet, and so the tea that it makes is very nice. So if you ever get a chance to find to come across uh, cranberry blood orange tea, I highly recommend it. But anyway, I digress. Come on in. I have fluffed up the pillows. Everything is ready for you. And we're today, drum roll please, da 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 da. We're doing part two of our series. This is going to be two of, I think, four, maybe five, but at least four presentations on getting ready for change. And you're like, okay, it's no longer January. If I was going to make a resolution, I would have done it by now. But it came to me that a lot of times we do struggle with change. We want to make change. We see things in our lives that we want to change and don't really know how to go about it. So the whole point of this is to help you become aware of what goes on in your head, sometimes on a subliminal or an unconscious kind of way, that helps to facilitate change or keeps you from being able to make lasting change. And so when you become aware of these steps, then you can more consciously make decisions. And this can be anything from, losing weight to changing jobs to finding a more satisfying romantic relationship or deciding what you want in a relationship. All of those things. All of those things. When before I end, I'm going to say something to you about boundaries too, and we'll end with that. Let me make myself a note so I don't forget. We're going to talk about boundaries, which is I did a whole series a couple of years ago on boundaries, based on the Bible. Because I find that when people violate boundaries, it can be a disaster all the way around. But anyway, we'll get back to that. Right now, we're talking about change. So, in case you didn't hear part one, this is part two. In case you didn't hear part one, we talked about the things that go on on the preliminary basis when you first start thinking about making a change, in your life. And sometimes there are before you get to acknowledging the change, there can be some things that happen on the front side, and that's what we talked about. And that can be encapsulated or termed as I don't need to change. It's not a problem. I don't see the problem. I don't need to change. And so there are four ways that can come up. You can be reluctant because you're comfortable. You can be reluctant because you're scared of change. You can be reluctant because you think it's going to be painful. Secondly, you may be in rebellion, that you may feel like, well, if I make this change, I'm giving up my independence, and I don't want to give up my independence. So that can be a second way that you're very reluctant to make a change. The third one is resignation, where you feel, just overwhelmed and helpless. And you feel like your problems are just insurmountable and you'll never be able to make a change. You'll never dig out of the hole. Maybe, it's financial and you feel like I'm always going to be broke. I'm never going to be able to come out of this. Or the fourth way is rationalizing, where it's kind of a form of protection, where you say, and this is more about your thoughts, how you think about things. So you rationalize, well, this same thing happened to my mom and my dad and my grandparents, and we've always had this particular problem, or my dad drank, or and it was okay. You rationalize whatever the issue is. So I just want you to be aware that before the change can take place, you've got to recognize what's going on the front side. What else may be going on. So that was step one. All right, so let's say we've moved past all that, and there's a little tiny glimmer that says, well, maybe a change might be good. So this is sort of a yes and no period. You say, I might change, but you're kind of ambivalent about it. I don't know if I really see the need. I don't know if it's really necessary. But this is a period where it's not firmly fixed in your mind that this is something that you want to do. So you're thinking, while you're thinking about it, you're seeing all the things that can go wrong, all the problems, all the obstacles, and you do this sort of, risk-benefit analysis. Is it worth the pain? But what will I get out of it? If I give up bread or whatever, carbs for a month, but I really, really like bread, will that be worth, will I be able to lose X number of pounds? You go through that kind of analysis. So, but then you start saying things like, well, I might be ready for some self-improvement. I might be ready to start going to the gym or start exercising. Maybe I'm almost there. Another way that you may think of it is, you say, well, I enjoy working out, but sometimes I think it'd be better to do it less. That's another form of rationalizing, where you're still thinking about it, but you're not quite there yet. Now this one is a biggie, where you say, well, I'm thinking about it because other people have told me that I need to change. And I hear this a lot with substance abuse. Other people have said that I need to stop drinking so much. But I don't see the problem. Maybe they have a problem, but I don't see the problem. But if people are telling you that, it may be time to really take a look at it again. And then, this one also is part of contemplation. I think I want to change, but I'm not sure about it. For me personally, I said that a lot when I wanted a relationship with the Lord. I would say, and I said this frequently, I want a relationship, but I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to go about it. And that was sort of in the back of my head a lot during that period. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I was raised Catholic. Went to Catholic school, all that through high school. Through the last 2 years of high school, I went to public school because I worried my mother to death until she let me get out of that all-girls school. But I didn't find, there's some people who find a lot of joy and a lot of relationship in the ritualistic form of worship that is Catholicism. that did not work for me. I did not find a personal relationship with God through, because, and it may work with some people. This is certainly not a criticism. Whatever works for you. I had a pastor who always said, eat the meat, throw away the bones. So if Catholicism works for you, great. It just happened that it didn't work for me. I studied Islam for a while. That didn't work, because every time I walked in the temple, I would hear very distinctly a voice that said to me, what about Jesus? What about Jesus? What about Jesus? And my response was usually, I'll think about that tomorrow. But anyway, I hadn't really planned on going in this direction. But anyway, the point is, when you ask for something, when you want something, when you really want it, God will find a way to deliver it to you. And what drove me into a relationship with him was really losing everything, and losing everything that I thought was important, losing everything that I thought made me me. I at the time I was a practicing attorney. At the time I had, we had a house built. I was married. We had 2 cars. We were doing well, I thought, financially. But there were other things that were going on that I wasn't aware of that ended up causing me to lose everything, goodbye to everything. But in that valley experience, I really learned what's important. I learned about me. I learned about what it means to have a relationship with God. And that's when I started hearing from him very directly and very specifically. And my spiritual gifts, I became very much in tune to. There were just a lot of things. I don't have enough time to tell you, all the things that happened. But if you were looking to make changes on the spiritual end, where you want a relationship with God, don't know how to get it, don't know where it is, just ask. Ask for that. He said, no good thing will I withhold. So he doesn't now, but the book of James also says, you have not because you ask not, or you ask amiss, which means you're asking for the wrong thing. So if you're asking for somebody's husband, you're asking amiss, okay? If you're asking for something out of the wrong place, out of a jealous spirit, no, you don't, trust me, you don't want that. So my point in all of this is, when you're thinking about making a change, think about why. Think about what it is, and then think about why you want that. Well, you say, I want $1 million. Okay, fine. Why? Well, I want to quit my job. Okay, fine. Why? Why? If you think it's going to give you more freedom, I hate to be the one to tell you, but having your own job means less freedom, not more. Especially if you got to make payroll and other people start depending on you. That's more responsibility, not less. Right now you go to your job, work 8, go on about your business. You can create your own thing, a part-time, without jumping out there. It's fine to jump out there, just be ready. Be ready. Don't jump out there thinking, the world is waiting for you because you've built a better mousetrap or something, So just be clear. I hope that this is landing with you, and that you're understanding where I'm coming from. Change is great. And there's some people that don't have to go through what I went through. I'm particularly hard-headed. And so sometimes I have to learn things the hard way, which is something that my mother used to tell me, all the time. And I didn't particularly listen. But I think a lot of what she told me was very true. That you know, it's real easy to rationalize things and justify things to yourself. And I used to be the queen of that. I could rationalize anything and turn stuff upside down. And I think that's something that this country is doing, but I'm not going to get into a political thing right now. But we've learned we are worshiping ourselves and our wants and our needs and our desires, and I want, I want because I want. And we have elevated self and flesh above kind of everything else. And then we wonder why, things are so upside down. Anyway, going back to what I said in the beginning about boundaries, I'm not going to get into that really deep. That may be our next series. After we finish with change, we may go on to boundaries. But I'll just say, I will leave you with this. I heard something today that I thought was very, very insightful. And that was when you are asking or letting someone know what your boundary is, it is much more empowering if you say it as something personal to you as opposed to what you want or don't want the other person to do. And the example that was given, her name is Teal Swan, and she is very interesting. She has a lot of very interesting work that she's doing on transformational kinds of things. And she was saying that when she goes to, give a talk, if she tells the people, this is what I require, I want you to like me this particular way, that's one way of doing it. It's sort of disempowering. But if you say it as in a request, kind of this is what I require, this is what I need, put it in terms of an I statement, it's much more empowering. But anyway, you think about that, chew on that about boundaries, and if there's a way that instead of kind of putting somebody in a box with your boundary, you make it in terms of how it works for you. So I think I'm really going to implement that, and we'll talk more about that later on. So anyway, getting back to change. That is part 2. Before you really implement change, you go through these stages where first you say, I don't need it, I don't want it, I don't see the necessity for it. And this is part 2 where you say, well, maybe, but you're still kind of ambivalent about it. So next week we'll talk about part 3, the next step in change. And that one I think will be a little bit familiar to a lot of people because it's about procrastination. So we'll be talking all about procrastination next time. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with that thought. Don't worry if you have fallen, if you've tried to make change and it hasn't worked. Don't worry. I got you, boo. And we're going to work through all the steps so you're aware of what's going on in your head, and then you can make really good decisions. You're not just a victim of circumstance, but you can make a decision, a real honest to Pete decision about how to change and how to implement it and how to make it long lasting, and not just, I think I kind of want to, So we're going to get you there. But anyway, in the meantime, you go and enjoy the lovely day. The sun is shining here. I hope that everything is going well. And even if even if there are things that you would change right now, just know that God is good. God is good. All is well. And until next time, remember, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And I definitely love you. Take care. Until next time, this is Carol Moulton. Tea Time with Carol. Love ya.